Let's get stuck in. My name's Carolyn, I'm Carolyn Gamble, and I am going to share with you today how this opportunity is giving mums like me, like you, more time, more space, more peace of mind as we strive for that elusive work-life balance that always seems to be a little bit out of reach. So before I get stuck in and tell you about me and you know, my journey, I'm actually going to start by asking you a couple of questions. Now, you don't need to tell me your answers. You're very welcome to. If you want to put them in the comments, feel free. But mainly I'm just going to invite you to answer these questions in your head. So the first question is, and I'm going to get straight to the point, how much do you earn right now in your job or your traditional business? Now, whatever amount comes to your mind, that might be how much you bring in monthly, it might be how much you earn, you know, every year, that's up to you, but just have that figure in mind. My next question is, with that in mind, is what you're earning enough? Does it allow you to do all the things you want to do, live the lifestyle that you want to live? And my final question, again with that in mind, how much more would you like to be earning in order to truly be comfortable? How much more than what you bring in right now? Again, is that an amount per month? Is that per year? It might even be, you know, how much you need a week to make, you know, everything go in the right direction. But so with all of those answers in mind, what I'd like to invite you to do now is imagine if the money that you earn, or the money that you want to earn, was coming in each month, whether you worked or not, what would be different? What would look different in your life? How would life change? How would that feel? And just hold on to that thought for a minute. Okay, so let's get cracking. Thank you for joining me. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I'm here. I've been privileged to be asked to share some of my story with you today. So I'm going to take you back in time a little bit. I first learned about passive income for the first time about maybe 8 years ago, something like that. Passive income is this concept that you can do some work once and then keep getting paid for it over and over again. Now, examples that we will all know of how that works is like an author writing a best-selling book and they get paid every time it gets bought, or an artist writing a #1 song and they get paid every time it gets played. Now, it's a simple and it's a really powerful concept, but the truth is, when I first heard about it, it sounded amazing, yes, but I didn't actually believe it was possible for a regular person like me, let's say. Now, the reason for that is because all I'd ever known was how to work a job and how to exchange my time for money. Essentially, I'd been raised to know how to sell my life for a wage. That sounds brutally honest, but that's the reality of it. And that's all I'd ever done. You know, I'd spent 20 odd years working in jobs, basically being told what I was worth based on someone, you know, what someone was prepared to pay me. However, I then became a mum and absolutely everything changed. And I mean that in every sense of the word. My whole life shifted on its axis. Everything that had previously been important was no longer important. Everything that I'd attached my sense of worth and sense of identity and sense of importance to just shifted. Everything changed for me. And shortly after becoming a mum, there were a few key moments in my life that changed both my outlook and my direction forever. So let me talk you through those. The first one, sadly, my father-in-law passed away very suddenly. He was a lovely man. He was only in his mid-60s. He'd worked all his life in a job that he resented more and more as the years went on. But he stuck with it because he thought it was the right thing to do. It's what, you know, it's what he'd been raised to do. It's what he'd been raised to know. His plan was to earn his money, pay off his mortgage, and basically look forward to living and enjoying life in his retirement years. Now, the reality of what actually happened, within 6 months of retiring, he'd fallen ill. He spent the next 12 months being poorly, in and out of hospital and at home, and he passed away less than 18 months after retiring. And he'd spent all that time poorly. So he never got to enjoy that life that he postponed for his retirement. He didn't get to enjoy his time or his money that he'd worked really hard for. And that had a real impact on me. That made me realise that I didn't want to pass that same model on to my daughter. I didn't want her to see me working a job all my life in the hope that I would have enough money, enough health left, to enjoy in retirement. I wanted to enjoy life now, and I'd had, a really big example in my life of why that was, a really key thing. So I knew that I needed to set a different example. For me, for my daughter, basically one that didn't involve her feeling as though she'd just been born to work a job and pay bills. Again, I know that sounds really brutal, but it's kind of the truth. So that was that bit. Another factor for me was actually realising how important my own financial independence was to me. And I'd never really appreciated that until I became a mum. Because until I became a mum, I'd always earned and paid my own way. I'd had my own jobs, I'd earned good money, I'd always stood on my own 2 feet when it came to finances and my income. But once we had our daughter and we made the decision for me to go part-time so that I could be there as her mum and be present for her as a baby and as she was growing up, actually the thing that I didn't take account for was that I became dependent on my husband and his salary because I'd gone part-time. Suddenly I wasn't bringing in enough to stand on my own 2 feet, and that really didn't sit comfortably with me. Now, don't get me wrong, my husband's a great guy. There's no reflection on him at all, but no one ever knows what's around the corner, do they? I realised that for my sanity, my own confidence, my self-esteem, dare I say it, my own identity, that I needed to be financially independent. And then, on top of both of those things, COVID hit. And that was the moment where I realised, rather than just knowing about this thing called passive income, I actually needed to do something about it. And the straw that broke the camel's back was that both me and my husband were made redundant from our jobs within 6 weeks of each other. I was made redundant just before Christmas, and my husband was made redundant just after Christmas. And that really was the final straw. That was when I knew that I had to put more of my time and my effort into creating passive income, basically so that I was never reliant on a job or a salary ever again. And for me, it's always tied back to that sense of I wanted to be the example to my daughter. I needed to be that positive role model for her. I needed and wanted to show her that you can and should follow your dreams. And that sounds like a big thing. It really does, but I think that's because so many of us have been conditioned to actually think that following our dreams isn't something that we can actually do. That's for the rich and famous people, isn't it? Following your dreams. And I couldn't look my daughter square in the eye without setting that example for her, because I do want her to follow her dreams. I do want her, to fulfill all her potential and feel as if she's been true to herself. And the only way she's going to do that is if I model it to her. So those things happened, lots of things happened, life is always happening, isn't it? We're always busy, but nevertheless, I took those as signs that I needed to start creating passive income. And I actually started creating passive income in a different way. My passive income journey started with property. So we bought a house to rent out as a buy-to-let. Gradually we built the funds up to do that, and we bought a second house and then a third one, and now we've got a portfolio of 4, and we're planning on building that portfolio and bringing more properties on board. And we're also Airbnb hosts, so I have created that sense of the value and the power of passive income through, I'm going to say, other more traditional routes. Of course, the challenge with property is that you need money to get in the game, and not everybody has that. Now, it wasn't just a case of getting in the game. Alongside everything else, you know, I've learnt new skills, I've worked on my own personal development, I've worked on my mindset. I used to be very fixed in my thinking, let me say. You might recognise this. I used to think that life controlled me rather than it being the other way around. Very fixed, kind of very fixed in my thinking. Now, I couldn't be more different. Now I have a very open way of thinking. I see opportunity everywhere, and probably most importantly, I believe I'm capable of making the most of those opportunities, and that's what kind of investing in my mindset has really helped me to do. The reason I'm here sharing it with you today is because not only that, but I believe every other regular person just like me can do the same thing. So along the way, this business model, this opportunity that you've got the opportunity to find out about in this group here, this business model has provided me with the stepping stones from what I call the employment trap into self-employment freedom. Basically from being a slave to someone else's goals and their priorities and their company objectives, to actually being in charge of my own time, my own diary, my own energy, my future. And gosh, isn't that a novel idea? Actually being in charge of your own future. Like 10 years ago, I'd have laughed at somebody if they'd suggested that. I'd be like, no, my future's carved out for me. I've got to work this job until, you know, I'm in my 60s and the government tells me I can retire. So taking charge of my own future felt like a pipe dream. And yet here we are. Now, I didn't figure it all out overnight. I've taken small baby steps, and sometimes extremely small baby steps. You know, life as a working mum is busy, always. But over time, those small baby steps have compounded, and they've created eventually this huge change. I've done it all at my own pace. I've learned, as I've said, the skills and the mindset, and crucially what they've allowed me to do is step out of the rat race, and to start succeeding on my own terms. So the reason that I wanted to share this today is because this business model that you're being introduced to, it gives you everything you need to do that. It's a proven system, it's support in every aspect, it's training, it's encouragement. That's priceless. It's being part of a team that is cheering you on and who wants to see you succeed. So the way I look at it now, this business model, I think it's a great way of explaining it. This business model isn't a stopping point. Actually, what this business model is the ticket for your journey to freedom. And that gives me goosebumps when I say it out loud. It's time and money freedom. It's being in control of your own time, not having to worry about the money. And again, like I say, to most people, that would feel like a pipe dream. And yet here we are, you know, proving that can be a reality. So I'm just going to ask you to cast your mind back for a moment. Remember, right at the beginning I said to you, how would it feel if your income was coming in whether you worked or not? Well, the reason I asked that question is because that's the reality of what I've done for myself. I now earn the same amount in passive income as I used to earn in my employed job. But now it's coming in without having to go to work, and that's priceless. That amount is growing steadily, you know, month in, month out. And it is not an understatement to say that passive income has changed our lives. You know, it's changed my life, it's changed our lives as a family, and now I feel really, really passionate about showing people how it can do the same for you too. I don't take for granted that I now have control over my own diary. You know, I plan my work around our family rather than the other way around, which is what most of us are used to. And I can prioritise us and what matters to us. And as I say, as a mum, that's priceless. My daughter knows that I can put her first. And how many of us mums wish we could say that? My daughter sees me in control of my time, in control of how I work and how I earn money, and most importantly, she doesn't see me being just a slave to a job. The best part for me, the peace of mind I get from that, is that knowing that she's going to grow up modelling the same thing because I'm showing her the way. My daughter is only 11 and she already has an entrepreneurial spirit. She's always looking for opportunities, and I see how what I'm doing is, you know, rubbing off on her in such a positive way. But it's not just her. My husband feels the benefit too, because now all this pressure isn't just on him. It's not on his job and his earnings. You know, having passive income coming in, we've given him choices. We've given us choices as a family. And the kind of the day-to-day benefit of that is that our daughter doesn't see stressed out parents who are just always trying to make ends meet, who just collapse on the sofa every night, you know, exhausted and defeated. Actually, what our daughter gets is engaged parents, present parents who enjoy what we do, enjoy a great lifestyle with her. We travel, we see the world, we, probably most importantly, we create amazing memories together, and she feels that we're present. So it's not all about the money. That's probably a key thing for me today. It's not about the money. It's about the peace of mind. It's about having the freedom to choose. It's about setting that example to our daughter and modelling what life can truly look like. What it can truly look like if you get brave. Let me add that bit. You've got to be willing to just step out of your comfort zone a bit so that you can take that control. For me, it's about creating the future I want instead of just making do with the one I can afford. This opportunity offers, in my opinion, the most accessible and affordable way to make everything that I've just talked about a reality for you and your family, just like it has done for me. There's no risk, there's no inventory to buy, there's no products to sell, there's no big upfront investment, you know, like there is with a traditional business, or, you know, like I've done, like property investing or anything like that. So there's none of those inherent risks that you get elsewhere. All there is the smallest registration fee of $50. It's $50. What is that? It's in pounds, 35, 40 quid, something like that. I don't know, whatever the exchange rate is. And then for that money, you've got your own business in a box. You've literally got a proven business model in a box, which you can run from home in your own time around the rest of your priorities for less than the price of 2 cups of coffee a month. It fits alongside what you're already doing and it works. The simplicity of it is the beauty of it. All you have to do is share a link from your phone to a platform that's similar to something like Costco, basically where people can buy products at up to 75% discount, and you get paid when they join the membership. It's really simple. There's no targets, there's no boss, there's no pressure, there's no expectation. What you will find is support and encouragement. Now, I know what you're going to be thinking. I do know, I promise I know what you're going to be thinking. It's a combination of, it looks too good to be true, I'm not going to be good enough to do it, or what will people think of me? And the reason I know that you're thinking that is because they're all the things that I was thinking when I first saw this business model. I had all those same thoughts and worries. I was sceptical, just like I'm sure you are, and that's only natural. It was totally new to me. I'd never done anything like it before. The self-doubt set in instantly. However, I also realised I had nothing to lose by giving it a try, and potentially everything to gain if it worked. And I'm so glad I did, because it did work. What you have heard from me today is the tip of the iceberg in all that this business model has done for me and all it's helped me to achieve, including, dare I say, being brave enough to be here talking to you live today, because it's scary. I've honestly gained so much that I can't put it all into words, and I'm here to tell you that you can have that too. As I've said, if you're willing to be a little bit brave, step out of your comfort zone, invest in yourself, invest in your family, invest in your children. Yeah, do it for them. I'm going to leave you, my time's up, but I'm going to leave you with this thought. For me, what we are talking about here, what we are collectively talking about in this group, it's not greatness. It's not, you know, big glamorous success. What we're talking about is being able to enjoy the ordinary. It's not about becoming a millionaire or, you know, having to change into someone that you're not. It's actually about being present in your own life, present with your kids, and not just some stressed out, worn out, shadowy version of yourself. For me, it's about creating peace of mind and a sense of security. It's about breathing space. Gosh, don't we all need breathing space as mums? It's about actually being able to prioritise what matters most to you. And as I say, that's priceless. So my motto now, I'm going to share it with you. You're welcome to borrow it if you want it. My motto now is, you can work less, earn more, feel better, and live happier. Because isn't that just the most amazing combination? We all want that, right?